Bonjour, bonsoir. Welcome back to my channel. This is Aavalé Storm, and I am so happy to announce that I will be posting videos on a regular basis starting tomorrow, Monday. And I'm going to start with a new video about Vanity's life, some of the behind the scenes activities that not everybody may have known about her. Even in her book, I read in some of the book, she left a lot of stuff out. She left out a lot of what was happening in Hollywood. And she didn't put a lot of that gossipy stuff in her book, which is Blame It on Vanity. Really, Blame It on Vanity is more about her coming to Christ and changing her life and getting out of the drugs, getting rid of the drugs and all that stuff and turning her life over to God. It's really more on that because at that point she's an evangelist, so she's speaking from an evangelistic mindset, not from a vanity mindset. But there's a lot of information out there that I've gathered over the years, and I said, what am I going to do with all this information? I mean, just sit it off and leave it on the cabinet over there, or should I make a little video? I said, yeah, I should make a video about it because why not? My video that I'm going to create, this is just a preview of what I'm going to create. The video has not yet been created yet. I'm in the process of putting it together, and that should be posted by next week. So I'll make an announcement on my channel to let everybody know when I'm going to post this video about Vanity and her life and behind the scenes. Because there's a lot of stuff that people don't know. All the people that she dated, they only know about, like, say, Adamant, Prince, Nikki Sixx, Billy Idol, people like that. But they don't know the women that she dated, because she dated women as well. And I did some research, and I found out a couple of the women that she actually had a relationship with. It was very short termed, but she actually went out and dated with these women. So that's something I'm going to add to the mix. And also, why she decided to become a sex symbol. Because she could have gone a different way with it. And maybe she could have done something a little bit more mainstream, conservative, commercial, but she didn't. She went straight into really hardcore, sex symbol, in your face, aggressiveness. She, bold, very bold statement for her. And I want to get into why she chose that as well, or my perception of why she chose it. Now, I have to say that I am not somebody that grew up during their era. I grew up much later, late 90s. I didn't know about Prince until approximately, I was probably like, probably 7 or 8. I found out about Prince. And that was through, like, going online. I saw a picture of him. I was like, who is that? And his name is Prince. And I was like, oh, okay, he's a singer. And so and I liked his music. I'm like, wow, this guy's so talented. I mean, he was really, 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 really super talented. And then, of course, I found out about Vanity. And I was like, oh my gosh, when I saw her, I will tell you, when I first saw Vanity, I was like, oh my gosh, she's amazingly, incredibly, perfectly beautiful. She really embodied a good balance between black and white. I was like, wow, she is perfection. And I wanted to know more about her because I'm like, wow, I just never seen a woman that as gorgeous as her, or that gorgeous. I've seen beautiful women, but I'm like, this one, Vanity, she won the prize. There's nobody quite like her. There was nobody quite like her in her era. Because I look through the 90s and see who was popular during the 90s. What other women were out there? And there really wasn't anyone that looked like her. She was like the only one. She was in her own lane, all natural beauty. And So I just started looking at pictures. I said, I would find one picture. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful in this picture. And then I find another picture. She's even more beautiful, depending on who was her photographer. I said, but she was just a lovely woman. And then I started looking at her interviews, and I'm like, she's so nice. I'm like, for somebody to be that incredibly beautiful, they usually aren't that nice. But she was actually a very sweet woman. She came from such a nice place, and she had good intentions, And so I fell in love with her, actually. I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? When you fall in love with someone and you think about them a lot, I think that's love. If you're kind of constantly thinking about a particular person, they keep popping up in your mind. You're like, oh, I want to see what this person is doing. I want to watch a video or a movie with this person in it because they inspire you. That's what she did for me. And she didn't have to be the best singer. She didn't have to be that. I didn't even care. It was more like her beauty was so unforgettable that she could have just taken just a piece of scrap of paper with something written on it and just sing that. I wouldn't mind. I would have listened to it. I just loved her whole persona. And I'm also going to put in the video that I'm going to create about her, where I think her persona came from. I think she went really deep into what she wanted to look like and how she wanted to look like. And I remember one of her references was Morticia from the Addams Family. I said, oh, wow. She wanted to look like Morticia. And then, of course, I started watching the Addams Family to see what is she talking about, that she was so intrigued by this Morticia lady. But then I saw what she was talking about. Morticia was very sexy and very smart, a very smart woman who did whatever she wanted to do, and she loved her man, but she still was quite independent and very sexy, the way she dressed and all that stuff. But Vanity said that was something that she was intrigued by. She's like, oh yeah, I love the way she dressed and her whole persona. And that's what she wanted to look like. And I think she nailed it. But I was like really fascinated by that's who she was referencing in a lot of her early work. Especially when she left Prince, I really saw it then. I'm like, wow, I could totally see it with the long black lace dresses and the whole, dark aura, that whole kind of mysterious dark aura. That's when she left Prince. Because when she was with Prince, he had her more like a streetwalker or call girl type girl, like a hooker. And I'm pretty sure that's not exactly the image she wanted. That's why she probably left. And I'm going to talk about that as well. Because I said, well, she didn't really want to be a hooker. But I think she saw that as a way of getting into the business. It made a name for herself. It made her unforgettable because it's like, oh my gosh, she's with Prince. And Prince is such a genius that everything Prince did turned to gold, pretty much turned to gold. I think people just flocked to whatever he did. I know I did, because when I discovered him, I just started listening to everything. So who did he work with? Who did he write for? What other groups was he involved with? I listened to pretty much everything that he did. I had to go back and research and figure it out. But it was fun. It was fun to do that, because the era that I grew up in with the rap and all that stuff, like really hardcore rap, and even the pop singers were having people rap on their song. So really, that's kind of what we were doing. But when you go farther back, like the 80s to me was one of the best eras. The 80s, oh my gosh. I mean, we had, I guess in the 80s you have Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Prince, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson. I mean, you had all these wonderful singers, the DeBarge family. I mean, there's so much great music back in that era. That was really great music, great lyrics. People actually played instruments. There wasn't all this computer generated sounds per se. Everything was done organically, and you could hear it. You could hear the quality was so much better. So to me, the 80s was one of the best eras for music. And so when I got into Prince, of course, Prince and Vanity, that was the couple. And I was like, I wonder why they didn't stay together, you know. And of course, we find out that Prince was very promiscuous. He liked his women. And, you know, even though Vanity was this incredible woman, this gorgeous woman, he still had an open relationship and saw other women. So I thought that was interesting. I'm like, what's that all about? And I think part of that could have been that he didn't like commitment at the time. Maybe early in his career, he wanted to be in control, and you know, he had his music was his wife, and everybody had to take a second seat to that. Now, I don't think he really had time to really have a real relationship. You know, because relationships you have to put in time. And if your music is first, how are you going to have time for your relationship? You probably won't have that much time for that person because you're always working. You know, you're on a tight schedule and you have to meet deadlines. And that's why they always say these musicians are really difficult to date them, because you might not see them for weeks on end. And in the industry, there's so much temptation, and other women and other men that are going to compete with you, or that's going to be there with him or her. That usually breaks up a relationship. So I can see why it happened. I think she saw that, oh, he's not going to commit. So, yeah. So she moved on, and she made a good decision, I think, as far as her career goes, because she went on to work with Berry Gordy, and Berry Gordy gave her a lead in the movie, way more money, and a 2-album deal, you know. I think it was a 3-album deal. I'm sorry, a 3-album deal, I think. And so she was doing far better with that than if she had stayed with Prince. Because, strangely enough, yes, Purple Rain is a hit. It's an iconic movie. It is legendary. But she didn't really lose out on anything because somebody had to play her. She knew that, well, somebody's going to have to play me in this movie if I'm not in it. So technically, I'm still going to get referenced, which she did, even though the woman's name is Apollonia. They say Apollonia played Vanity. You know what I mean? So that was the bragging rights that she had, even though I'm sure she was sad that she wasn't in the movie. She had to move on. But she had bragging rights. Somebody played her in a movie. Like, how many people can say that? And you're in your 20s and somebody's playing you your life. You know, it was, you know, when I think about it in that way, I'm like, wow, she still won. She still won, you know. So, and she was in a great movie called The Last Dragon, which was #1 in the box office, did phenomenal as well. Iconic, legendary movie. So she really won both ways, really, you know, if you look at it. So I want to talk about that. I want to create maybe a 3-part video about her. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. But the first in the beginning is talking about how she started out, but giving my personal opinion about it, my personal feelings on it, and what I think happened based on what I've seen the interviews and all that good stuff. And put that out there and see what people say. But I feel like there's so much behind the scenes stuff that I found out by talking to people, going online and going to prince.org, and there was some vanity sites up that are no longer up anymore, where people were talking about what they thought about Vanity or what happened, and you know, and all that. It's like, and was Prince obsessed with her? I think he was. That's something I really, truly think Prince was obsessed with, was her, because if you look at all the women that he dated after her, they look like a little bit. They don't look just like her, but there's something Vanity-esque about them, you know, with the hair and the eyes and stuff. It's something similar. They have a similarity in that way. None of them can stand next to her when it comes to beauty. None of them can, although those other women are talented And although those women are pretty, they can't stand next to her. They can't. Um, but Prince tried. He did try. He did try to replace her in a lot of ways. And I guess in a way that could be a compliment in a way, because I feel like once they broke up, they still were friends because there was a video out. There's a video out here where she created a piece of art for him and put it on. I think it was Kathy Lee and Regis and Kathy Lee's show, and it shows her talking about this artwork that she did for Prince, that she's giving to Prince. So they were still interacting with each other. They were still friends. Well after she had left and moved on and did her albums and all that stuff. I think that was in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, that show aired. And it's on YouTube now. So there you go. And then Vanity came from Canada. She's a fellow Canadian. I'm Canadian as well. So it's amazing that she, came from little bitty, well, I should say little Canada. Canada's huge, but from a little town called Niagara Falls. It's very, small little conservative suburban town. Nothing really goes on there. And she made it all the way to Hollywood. It's amazing to me. Well, we have a lot of talent in Canada. We have Drake. Drake is another person from Canada. It's a few people. But what I remember about her is that she was a one-of-a-kind beauty. There was no one that quite looked like her. And I did my research. I said, there's other women that I saw that came before her that has similarity, like Jane Kennedy. I saw a picture of that lady, and she was very similar beauty. There was other women like Linda Carter, very beautiful woman, very similar beauty. And I guess Farrah Fawcett and Kate Smith. And so there's a few. There's Bo Derek, popped up from the 80s. But nobody quite looked like her, though. No one could match it. There's something, she has a perfection about her face and body. It's just so balanced and so attractive. And I think part of it is really her personality. She had this very magnetic personality where it's like you just come back for more. It's like, I want to know more about her. I want to know what she's thinking. I would like to hear her talk and speak because she had a beautiful voice. And I want to know what's on her mind. And she had a lot on her mind. So that's the video I'm going to be putting up, part 1, which will air next Monday. So, yeah. So stay tuned for that, guys. And hopefully you give it a thumbs up. If not, you can give it a thumbs down. But I still want to get people to, at least look at the video, view the video from beginning to end. I think it'll be fun and interesting. I have some surprises. So stay tuned. And thank you for listening. And talk to you guys later. Bye.